Um, so today I'm going to talk about some of the work that we've been doing in the past year at Runway. For those who don't know what we do, we're an applied research company building for the next generation of creative tools and media. We do research in generative models, specifically focusing on image and video generation. And today I'm going to talk about Gen 3 Alpha, which is our latest video generation model. But I'm also going to talk about the past and the future of kind of video generation, like how we see things evolving, but also like giving a bit of brief history of like how things evolved over the past years. So the way I like to start those presentations is just to give context on like how the field has changed over the past few years. There's been a lot of enormous progress in this field, and I think it's easy, given like how fast things are evolving, how quickly the field is moving, to forget how much progress we've made in just as a field in general over the past few years. So this is what video generation looked like in 2020. So at that point, the company started in 2018. When we started out, not a lot of people were working on generative models. And in 2020, you had some early progress in image generation, and from that early progress, you could kind of put videos together, like very simple videos that interpolated between images. So you could train models on very specific subjects. So you could train a model on just the images of faces or images of a specific kind of object, in this case, shoes. And then you can build very simple videos around those. Then we moved to 2021, and you have the first glimpses of control. Obviously, as you can see, the results are extremely unimpressive by today's standards, very pixelated. But this is our first attempt to make a short film using generative models. And you can see that the technology is very rough, and this is just 3 years ago. And then we moved to 2022, and things are starting to move faster. Specifically, we're seeing a lot of progress in image generation, and we're seeing the models that are being able to generate images of that are getting closer and closer to photorealism. But still, in terms of actually moving those images, of creating video, we still are very limited. Like we can only create like barely moving kind of images. And then 2023 was really a landmark year for video generation. Was really when we kind of started putting a lot of effort into getting those models out into tools for artists and creators to use. So this is some outputs from our Gen 2 model. In 2023, we released Gen 1 and Gen 2, which were our first video generation models. And you can see things are evolving. The videos are still short, and there's not that much action happening or change happening in the videos. But you start to see kind of motion. You start to see the ability to simulate different effects. And you start to see like cloud movement. It's starting to feel like you're actually generating video instead of just moving images. And this year we had another step function increase. So this is outputs from our latest model, Gen 3 Alpha. This is a foundation model that can generate videos using a variety of different inputs that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But these outputs are just generated using a text prompt. So a simple description of what's happening in the scene, and you get back a video of that is quite photorealistic. You can introduce different changes in the scene. You can start to see those models becoming a lot more versatile and a lot more capable. And I think this is just a start, but it's important to kind of understand where the field was just a few years ago, just to extrapolate where things will be a few years from now. One really important piece to how we think about building those models is, of course, the main outcome of those models is building videos that you can use, to tell stories, to create all different kinds of content and for artists to express themselves using those tools. But at the same time, building those models, we think of them as models of the world, of models of reality. In order to accurately be able to generate photorealistic video, you need to, those models need to build an understanding of different aspects of the world, to build an understanding of 3D consistency, of different concepts, different kinds of objects, different kinds of representations for different kinds of actions. So we see those models as world models, as building really powerful representations of the visual world that can be used for content creation, but can potentially be used for a much wider range of use cases as well. Those of you who work in the kind of language model domain might be familiar with scaling laws. Scaling laws are the idea that if you put in more compute and data into models, you're able to get kind of predictably improved performance. And the same kind of scaling laws apply to visual generative models. So the more you increase the compute and data scale that you're putting into building those models, predictably the performance will improve. And as you improve the performance, you see many different kinds of emerging capabilities coming out of those models. And I'm going to talk about some of those in a bit. So one of the most striking things about Gen 3 Alpha compared to previous video generation models is the ability to really introduce change in the scene and to do that with the kind of input and guidance that you're providing to those models. So unlike previous models where you could only make an existing kind of scene and a subject move, in this case you can actually introduce some change and introduce entirely new elements in the scene. This model is also much more capable at both photorealism, but also at simulating human actions. So there's a lot of things about modeling visual world that we take for granted as humans, such as the ability that, like, when a subject is interacting with an object, like here, the person interacting with the piano, that as the person is interacting with the piano, the state of the object changes in response to the action. Those things are kind of obvious to us as humans, as we kind of intuit about and have this intuitive kind of model of physics. But for models to learn, more traditionally, you had like more traditional kind of 3D pipelines needed to model those things explicitly. But in our case, with video generation models, those things are entirely learned from data. So we don't introduce any concept of physics, any inherent rules into those systems. They learn about the visual world just by ingesting a large number of videos of different kinds of settings and different kinds of situations. Another really powerful emerging capability is the ability of the model to generate text and generate text with high fidelity. So you can use that capability to create a variety of interesting effects with titles and interesting kind of transitions. Something I'm primarily and very excited about is, as I mentioned, this world modeling aspect of those video models. This idea that they can simulate phenomena in the real world. Those simulations are not perfect, but again, as I mentioned, there is that clear trajectory of improvement. And so you can, I truly believe, and that's what kind of a lot of our research team is focused on, is this idea that as you further scale those models, they're going to get much more precise around how they simulate different aspects of reality. This is another example of this completely emerging capability of the model to do liquid simulation. There is no inherent knowledge that we introduce into the model to understand how to kind of simulate liquids, but the model has kind of learned that on its own. One really important piece about how we operate at Runway and how we build tools is this emphasis on control. The results themselves are very impressive. You can generate really compelling videos with those models, but it doesn't mean much if it's not the videos that you want to create as an artist, as a filmmaker. And so a big focus for us, beyond the focus on the base model and the foundation model, is really building the right tools around those generative models. And a big aspect of that is introducing more and more modalities that you can use to steer the model, to provide as input to the model. But another aspect is kind of recognizing that the artistic process and the creative process is very messy, and you might have many different steps in the process. And so you might not necessarily want to control those models in one way. You might want to be able to continually steer the models towards the outputs that you want to generate. And so we think about a lot of what are the right tools to build around those models. And I think it's still very early in figuring out the right abstractions and the right kind of UIs and the right user experience. While those tools are powerful, if we don't figure out the right ways to control them, they're not going to be actually integrated in creative workflows. They're not going to be able to tell unique stories. And so this is the big challenge, like for us, is figuring out what are the right tools and abstractions around those models. A lot of the discourse and kind of narrative around AI models these days is around kind of this idea of agents, right? It's this idea that you can provide a high-level description of what you want to create, and then have an agent kind of take a number of steps towards kind of executing that vision, and you as a human are waiting for some time, and you get back kind of the final outcome of the agent's process. I don't think this quite works if you're building creative tools. When you're starting out with a new creative project, you might not necessarily have a fully precise idea of what you want to create. Instead, you want to discover that through iteration, together with a model. So we see our models less as building agents, but rather as building thought partners. Building models that allow you to discover new ideas, to help you to think through and make creative decisions. And so, as an outcome of that, for us, a big focus has been on controllability and really thinking through what are the different inputs to those models. So this is some examples with our image to video tool. So instead of a text prompt, you now provide a starting image and you animate that image, and that provides a different sort of control compared to text input. So here you have some examples of starting with kind of photos taken in different parts of New York, providing them to the image to video tool that uses Gen 3 Alpha, and generating kind of a lot of magical videos out of that. And this is another control mode. It's called video to video, and unlike the previous tool, in this case you're providing a video as input, and you take the structure of the video, but you can completely change the style and aesthetics. So this is a video, an input video that was shot in our office, and you can completely transform it into and kind of completely transport into a different style, a different location. As I mentioned, something we're really excited about is this idea that those models are world models, that they're simulating more and more precisely as we scale them different aspects of the world. And so there is a big potential for those models to increasingly simulate more and more of physical phenomena in the world. And this is an area that I believe is very promising, and we're paying a lot of attention to. It will take a lot of effort to bring more and more modalities, more and more kind of different kinds of data and different kinds of phenomena into those models. But the moment we do that, we can imagine that those models become much more capable generalist tools that are able to simulate different aspects of reality at different scales of reality. a big focus for us at Runway is how we work with artists and kind of how we discover together with artists and creators the future of those models and the future of those tools. We don't have, while we have a strong conviction that generative models will be a big part of kind of the future of creativity, the future of media, we don't quite know exactly the shape of the tools, and we don't quite know what will be created with those tools. I think that's something we need to discover together with the people that are using those tools every day. And so it's also really important for us to support artists and creators and this emerging community of people that are using those models to tell unique stories. So one example of that was the film festival that we organized. It was called AI Film Festival, and it showcases short films that are made by artists using AI tools. And those AI tools might be incorporated in the artist's workflow in a lot of different ways. But it was really striking to see the variety of kind of different kinds of films that people created using those models. And we want to support and grow that community of artists even further. And to that end, we also recently announced the 100 Film Fund. This is an initiative to fund artists or teams of artists that are making films using AI models. I think the kinds of things that you can create using those models, the kinds of stories that you can tell, will only grow as those models improve, as those tools improve, and as artists figure out more and more what to do with those tools. But the future of those models is not set in stone. It's really important to continue to push towards making sure that the artist's voice is incorporated into the creation process of those models. And so at Runway, we're always trying to be at that intersection between the world of AI and technology and also the world of art and creativity, and figure out how to make those two kind of universes that might talk different languages to kind of talk to each other and learn from each other. Thank you.